Yeah, so what we're gonna do, Dr. Black, what I envision us doing very quickly, I have a few quick round questions for you so we could get to know you a little better. Then we're just gonna get into the questions for you. I know that you're driving, so we'll just kind of do it that
Listen,
way.
y'all know me. Y'all know me. We don't have to break no ice. You know me.
Okay, all right. Well, okay. What I really wanted to find out first before we get started is now, really and truly, what is your preferred way of relaxing? Is it fishing or is it singing? Which one would you choose?
I do both.
Okay.
Yeah, I do
Okay.
both, but probably about as often. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Understood. All right. So what we're gonna do is we'll get straight into the questions. I have a couple of questions I want to get started with to kind of
Okay.
get us primed for the material, and then I'll open it up for Q&A. So the very first question is, obviously Isaac,
Okay.
right? Okay. So obviously Isaac is the focal point of the story, right? He's a very nuanced character. He takes us through his trajectory of peaks and valleys and healing and trauma. So really wanted to know, where did you birth Isaac from? Like who was the inspiration for Isaac, and what parts of yourself do you see in him?
I didn't get Isaac from anyone. This is just a story that Spirit gave to me. Isaac is not a person. Isaac doesn't remind me of anyone in particular. I think the only thing I can say is that Isaac has pieces of every black gay man I've ever met.
Okay.
Right? Um, Isaac
Okay.
represents what it means to be black and queer and unwelcomed and yet absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
See, the thing about Isaac is Isaac knows that his father doesn't care for him that way. But the irony upon all irony is that Isaac is Jacob's savior.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a recent interview of yours where you mentioned that, sometimes as queer folks, we feel as though it's our parents that are supposed to give us the answers and supposed to be like healing for us, but it's really us that are supposed to be, providing the answers to them. Um,
Oh, absolutely. In fact, is it safe to say that most of us here on this platform are gatekeepers? Are most of us black, um, same gender loving men?
yes, as far as I know,
Okay.
yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, okay. Um, and I'm only asking that because the thing I believe is that we black queer men are actually sent to save the rest of the world. Because see, the whole point about being queer is that you see what other people miss. The point about being queer is God makes you just different enough to force you to the margin, to force you to the edge of existence. But the reason we have to live at the margin is because we're going to protect everyone else who stands at the center. We think we're at the margins because other people hate us. And they think they pushed us to the margins because they dislike us. But really, you pushed me right into my destiny.
I know that's right.
because
Um,
my because my destiny is to make your life livable, to make your life better. It's always the queer person. It's the Byron Rustin, it's the James Baldwin, it's the Langston Hughes. It's always the queer people who see what everybody else is. Because when you live on the margins, you must live much more carefully. Your dance must be much more excellent because you don't have much room to fuck up.
Right. That's right. And one of the things that I think about that too is being queer is something that pushes people to really understand what unconditional love is, because I'm giving you the opportunity to learn how to love me, even though you might not agree or whatever have you. I'm standing in my truth, and I think that's the best gift that we can give to someone, is to be in our authenticity and say, no, I'm not changing who I am. What you're going to need to do is learn how to love unconditionally and access that part of yourself. So
I
yeah.
might say it a different way. I might say it a different way. I don't know that teaching unconditional love, I think that's a great thing. I think that's a great thing, is the highest aim. I think that loving myself is heaven's requirement.
Okay.
Like I don't think you can come back to God with a life you didn't love and God welcome you into heaven.
I like that. I agree with that.
I,
Yeah.
I think you must have learned to love yourself if because the only thing heaven can tolerate is love, right? And so I think what Isaac learns in this book is the ways in which even his father him, but Isaac did not have the knowledge, the insight, the language to be able to comprehend it. Because Jacob really does love Isaac. Jacob just doesn't know how to love Isaac. And Jacob doesn't know how to love manhood and masculinity in Isaac's iteration, right?
Yeah.
And so Isaac's function, in many ways, Isaac's purpose, even one could argue, is to teach Jacob that manhood has many manifestations. In other words, to teach Jacob that God doesn't only look like you.
That's right.
God looks like me too. And you can like it or not like it, but the flowers will still bloom, you know. And so I think that Isaac needs a therapist because if Isaac is not careful, he has spent a lifetime blaming his father for what he isn't, why he doesn't like himself, for what he never had. And what the therapist helps him to understand is, sir, your father is not to blame for that.
Yeah.
Your father did have shortcomings, correct. He had limitations, correct. Your father was mean and abusive to you at times, correct. But that does not limit who you are. And it's a profound realization, brothers. And that realization is no human on earth, I don't care if they birth you, if they conceive you, no human on earth can limit your destiny if you don't agree.
That's right. You said something about that stuck with me earlier. You said as queer people, we often take ourselves out of our family lineage. We often push ourselves to the boundaries and allow our family, whoever else, to define, how we show up. How do you think we as like queer people, queer Black men can do a better job at showing up in our authenticity and not exiling ourselves when that is so what we've been used to doing, and it's such a pattern that has been coming up for so many of us?
Well, the only thing I would say, and then we'll take questions from these other brothers, is how I think that I think the primary way to do that is for Black queer men to accept the very dangerous, the very risky notion that God is queer too.
Mm-hmm.
See, a person ought to see God as a reflection of the self. And if I can see God as Black and I'm a Black man, then I can see God as queer too.
I like where you're
Very,
going. I like where you're going with that, Dr.
I think it's absolutely critical. I think it's absolutely necessary. Because if I can't see God as queer, that's called self-hatred.
Black. Clock it. All right. Okay. So thank you, Dr. Black, for entertaining my questions. Now I'm going to open the floor up to Q&A. We'll do this by raising your hands, and I'll call you to come off mute. But while we're doing that, there was a question in the chat, and a question that had been also submitted previously that was specifically talking about the story of like Matthew and Jesse Lee, right? So some of the questions that have been coming up with that is, number one, is that for potential of being turned into his own story, or what would that story have looked like if it ran across?
I don't have the slightest idea. I just really don't have the slightest idea. I really don't. That's just what came to me. That's what Spirit Ancestors gave me. And that's how this ends. I don't, and so many people have asked me, oh, are we going to get a story out of Matthew and Jesse? I don't know. But I have to tell you that I love that story.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And this story of Black men running to each other, I think it's a magical notion, a magical idea. But I don't know what's going to become of that. I don't know.
Okay. All right. I guess we'll just have to stay tuned then in that case. Okay. Anybody, there are any questions from the group? And you feel free to come off mute or raise your hands and I will call on you. Now, Dr. Black, they've been talking all this time, and now ain't nobody got nothing to say. Mao.
First of all, hello. First of all, I want to say really thoroughly enjoyed the book. My question for you is, I'm so curious about your writing process. As someone that is trying to get into writing more openly, writing more honestly, and writing more thoroughly, what does the beginning process look like for you when you're starting to write a project like Isaac's Song?
I didn't hear the question clearly. Can you repeat it, brother?
Yes, my question was, what does the beginning of your writing process look like when you're starting to write a piece like Isaac's Song?
Uh, Hold on 1 minute. Hold on. Let me see if I can switch this. Hold on. I don't know if I can. Okay, I just don't hear you really clearly. I heard you say writing process. I got that part.
Mal, I can step in and I can step. The question is, what is your writing process like for something like this? And especially in Mal, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I mean, given the content of Isaac's song and those of us that want to pursue writing as well, how do you approach writing this book and starting like with chipping away at all these heavy topics?
Okay, I got you now. I think I'd say two things. One, you have to write with the same consistency you breathe.
Oh, okay.
Right? Quite literally. Because if not, a book will get started, but it'll never finish. You know, everybody and their mama has started a book. But
That's
come on,
true.
right?
That mean, hey,
But
if
you
we
have
on
to do
top
it
of it.
you got to do it every day. Rain, sleep, snow, shine, whatever. You got to do it every day, right? In terms of the writing process, you really have to do it every day and be so egotistical that it needs to come out glorious. That as you write it, it seems praiseworthy to you. Oh, this is so literary and beautiful. No, write it and let sentences be ugly. Let it be like, oh my God, I don't even like how this sounds. But just keep going, and then come back and perfect it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that.
Right? No, no baby is born excellent. They're just born.
Come on. Listen, I'm so glad we're recording this because it's the quotes for me. Okay. Anybody else? I have some few questions, but I want to make sure y'all have the opportunity to, speak with Dr. Black about anything you want to know about Isaac's song. Yes, AD. And he's driving, so make sure you project, please.
Got you. I can yell. So can you hear me first off?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, man.
Hey. So in the beginning of the book, the therapist asks Isaac, if he's truly proud of himself or if he's just accepted, the fact that he's gay is that like just a fact. So I guess what does that process look like for you determining if you're truly proud of yourself for the things that you've accomplished and the person that you are versus just accepting those things as, facts?
I think that means at some point a black gay man coming to terms with not just being born gay. I think most people can get there, but actually understanding that God sent me gay because there's something in the assignment of my existence that other people cannot do. They cannot do, and it takes me being gay to do it. See, you don't get a James Baldwin unless he's gay. Baldwin is not just smart.
True.
Baldwin is smart because he's gay. Some folks have thought he was smart in spite of being gay. It's the exact opposite. You don't get a Bayard Rustin unless you get a gay man,
That's
right?
right.
And so it's a man wrestling with the notion of why did I need to be gay in order for me to live this life, to live this destiny, right? I think that's the first thing. The second thing, right, is to free everybody you know, to free everybody you know from needing them to applaud your sexuality.
Okay.
Let them go. You
I know
don't
that's
need
right.
it. You don't need it. It's the same way, like you don't need them to agree if you go buy a car. It's your car.
Hmm.
You know. In other words, this is your being. You're the one who's driving it. You have to like it. So yeah, that's what I say.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you for that. Yeah. Anybody else? All right. Dr. Black. Okay, we got two more coming your way. I'll do Olu and then Chris.
Hi, Dr. Black, Olu here.
Hey,
Um,
Olu.
hey, how's it going?
Great start.
Good. I thought it was interesting when you mentioned that Black queer men slash the queer community at large, but specifically as we're talking about Black queer men, we're here to liberate the community. I think within Isaac's song, we'll see Isaac maybe not necessarily liberate some people, like especially when it comes to the more feminine gay Black men or the inner city Black people who lived in Chicago, or some of the sexually liberated Black women. And so, with that being said, I think it's interesting, I guess, that juxtaposition. And if just would like you to speak more about that, because we say like we wouldn't have James Baldwin and things like that, but then I also think of the James Baldwin interview with Nikki Giovanni when he's talking about Black women and how Black men show up for them.
I'm not quite sure I understand the question. See if you can restate it, brother. I heard you, but I'm not sure exactly what the question is.
Yes, if Black men are, or queer Black men are here to liberate the community,
Uh-huh.
but we typically show up in ways that don't liberate some people in the community, whether it is Black women, whether it's more feminine Black queer men, and things like that. So just, I thought it was just interesting that juxtaposition in the book, um, and how you wrote Isaac's character. Can you
Oh,
talk?
I got you. I got
Yeah.
you. I got you. I got you. Okay, I got you. Well, see, I make a distinction between queer men and gay men.
Can you speak more about that just distinction?
Uh-huh. See, a gay man is one who, as a man who has sex with other men. Queerness to me is a consciousness, which is why for me, a person could be queer and not gay. Like, I think Jesus was queer, but I don't know that Jesus is gay. But I think Jesus was queer. See, queer to me is peculiar. Somebody who's special. Somebody who sees what most other people see. But that's not a sexuality, right? Necessarily. Because I think there are a lot of gay men who are not queer. I think they're just regular. They just gay, right? And so I think queer people have been sent to liberate. I don't think everybody gay has been sent to liberate. I don't think that. But I think a person who's sent to liberate seeks liberty. See, it doesn't matter who's holding it. In other words, they seek people's freedom from oppression. Whether it's a woman, it's a man, it doesn't make a difference. If a person loves liberty, they seek to destroy oppression regardless of who's being oppressed. I think that.
That's right.
And I think queer men will do that. I do not think that every gay man will, though.
Dr. Black, you got people in the chat saying they want to throw their shoe right now at you. All right, but yes. All right, thank you, Olu. Chris?
Hello, Dr. Black, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How are you, man?
Wonderful. I'm wonderful. Yeah, so in the book, and right now in this meeting, you've talked a lot about spirituality and like the relationship between Black queer men and God, quote unquote, in the grander sense. I was wondering about your thoughts on the intersection between like traditional Black religion, because within the book you mentioned a lot like how Christianity affected Isaac's relationship with his family and his parents and whatnot. How that, like, what that intersection between traditional Black religion and like Black queerness and like Black queer men within that, like, what does that look like for like what like how do you feel like we fit in to those spaces? Not to say that I want to be in those spaces, but I'm just curious about your perspective. Yeah.
I think what I'd say is you don't get the Black church without queerness. There is no Black church without queerness. It would be silent and it would be dumb. Right? Because we were the Sunday school teachers, we were the choir directors, we were the musicians, and very often we were the pastors. You know, that's another thing, but okay. right?
Mm.
So what I'm really saying is spirit often moves through queer people more more intensely, because queerness is really supposed to be an invitation, right? It's supposed to be an invitation for the melding of things, for the coming together of things. Queerness is supposed to be an invitation for spirit to come and dwell in this place, because queerness is not supposed to be rigid. We're supposed to be open. We're supposed to be fluid. We're supposed to have knowledge of things and possibilities that most other people miss. So it makes sense to me logically that queer people are going to be the ones who tend to move forward when spirit or spirituality is called upon, right? I think that has been true, and I think that's going to be true, right? Also, because very often your queer people tend to be the keepers of creativity, right? There's no music without queer people. There's no painting without queer people. There's no dance without queer people. Come on, somebody. There's no writing without queer people. Do y'all feel what I'm saying to you? I can't hear nobody on this platform.
I hear you, Dr. Black. I hear you. You was
But it's
speaking.
true, right? It's true, right? It really is true. And that's because it makes sense that gay people create, right? Because gay people are reflecting the creator.
That's right.
Colors of the rainbow. You absolutely right.
Yes.
You
See,
are
I think God is invisible because God knows most people could not bear looking at God, because most of us want to look at ourselves when we think about God. If we ever got to the point where we could all love each other as God, I think God would appear. I think God would be unafraid to be seen.
Mm.
But right now we love bondage, we love incarceration, we love oppression so much that I think God fears that we put God in jail if we could.
Dr. Black, I want to say, okay, yes, we have one more question. We'll make this the final question. Marvin.
Hello, Dr. Black, and thank you once again for this wonderful book and being here with us. My question is, in looking at the conclusion of the book, for me, it seems like there's not really a conclusion to Isaac's story. It's kind of left open and empty, or not empty, but open and, like a blank canvas. So I want to know how you thought about that in juxtaposition with thinking about the future of like Black queerness. Like, what does the future look like for us?
And that's just it. That the queer person is going to have to write it. See, the whole thing that Isaac discovers is he gets to write his own story, right? And either you'll write it or you won't. And if you won't, there will be no story. But if you will, you get to direct it. You're the director of your own destiny. That's what Isaac discovers, not his father. He is the one who's supposed to write this narrative about who he is, about how he feels, about the errors he's made, about the successes he's had, right? And you can do it in whatever creative way you choose, but you have to do it. Being hurt and wounded and all that might be true. Then you have to write through your wounds. But see, also, we have to be very careful, y'all, because sometimes, and it is true that we've been hurt in particular kinds of ways as Black queer men. That's true, from how our people treated us, from parents, teachers, etc. But the healer is always wounded first. Always. So that the healer knows the nature of wounding and knows how long wounds take to heal and knows which medicines heal what wounds. See, the healer has got to first be sick in order to know what it takes to get well. Right?
That's true.
And so this is really, I think, the point of this book, that Isaac discovers that he has to write his own story. So by the time we get to the end of this book and he's writing the story of Matthew and Jesse, he's now become a writer. That's what you were sent to do. That's what you were sent to do, right? So you have to now write, and we are left, right, we're left waiting to see what's going to be the nature of the narrative you produce. What's going to be the nature of the story you tell. And most Black gay stories have never been told.
block it. No,
Yep,
that's
yep.
true. It's true.
right? So we have to see if some wonderful gatekeeper, some wonderful, amazing queer brother is going to be bold enough to tell the story of how you get molested and you still come out a business owner, right? Or even how you get molested and then you have to turn around and be the caregiver of the one who molested you. Ooh.
I know.
Get them.
Now we're getting into it.
Yes. But see, that's a strength most people cannot imagine,
Yeah.
right? Some of us will have to write the story of being raised by an auntie because my mother didn't want me. We'll have to write that story, right? And then forgiving her, right? Paying not the auntie, paying mama's bills at the end of her life, the one who didn't want me. See, they're painful stories to begin with, but they liberate in the end because if we'll get this message, because the message is not that something was wrong with me. The message is you conceived something bigger than what you understood.
That's right. That's it.
Yeah. And once the person discovers that, they'll understand that that you can birth heaven's own child and think you don't want it. Yeah. So so all these are stories that some of us need to write, but it's not always writing. Some of us need to paint it.
Come on.
Some of us need to dance it.
Come on.
Right?
That's it right there.
It's so important, right? It's really, 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 there are very, very creative mediums, but we need to take whatever medium is ours and we need to use it we need to sing our own song. That's why this is Isaac's song, right? Because his mother started the song for him as a little boy, of course, if you remember, right? And so Isaac has to finish the song. Others can start it, but they can't finish it. Yeah. I have time for maybe one more question.
Okay. Yes. Well, honestly, Dr. Black, I honestly just want to take this moment to say thank you for for just number one, being who you are, being willing to tell your story, being willing to, give us this book and some keys that help us unlock our healing. Definitely, we appreciate you. Want to say we value you taking time to come talk with us tonight. I guess the only question I have is what you about to get into for the rest of the evening.
Well, I'm gonna handle some business and go to another book club meeting, and then by that point I'll be tired enough to sit out.
Understood. Understood. Dr. Black, we appreciate you. Listen.
I love you guys. I love you guys so much.
The word that you just dropped, it'll be something that we take with us forever.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Black.
Thank you.
Love y'all.